Okay, what we're going to look at now is the first part of constructions that's not to do with triangles. So specifically, we're going to look at line segments and lines and how they interact using geometry. So for perpendicular bisector of AB, what we're going to be required to do is, first of all, perpendicular means at a right angle. So we've got this line segment here. A line segment is a part of a line. So you can see it just goes from A to B. The perpendicular is going to go at a right angle like this. And if you're bisecting something, you're splitting it into two equal parts. And that's very important. If you're splitting any line into any two parts, I mean, you could just draw any perpendicular, and that's not what we're trying to do. So in order to do this, and using the construction method, we're not going to be allowed to use rulers. So if you're practicing this at home, make sure you have a line segment in front of you. You can just use a plain piece of paper, draw a line of any length, maybe 5 to 10 centimeters. I think 7 or 8 centimeters is quite useful in terms of the size of your compass, and it's not going to be too big or too small. But in theory, any length is fine. What you're then going to need is a compass. So your compass is going to go on point A of the line. And make sure that your tip and your nib, when you put your compass together, are lined up with each other so that your pencil is not too high or too low. And then you're going to expand your compass so that it's beyond halfway. So I would say roughly this is halfway just by eye. I'm going to make it so that it's about here. Doesn't have to be exact, but definitely more than halfway, and I'll explain why later. And then you just make sure your compass is locked in place. Now, you don't have a fancy lock like I do, you have a digital one, so you just make sure your compass stays open at the same distance that you've opened it to. And the next thing you want to do is just draw an arc. So I'm now going to draw an arc here, just like this. And I'm going to draw an arc that goes, let's continue it in the other direction as well. Okay, now it's really important that you leave your compass at the same length that you've opened it to and gently move the point to point B. And then what you're going to do is, with your compass, draw another arc. Remember, this is the same distance that we've drawn our first arc with, and you're going to draw your second arc. And this is what you end up with. What you'll have noticed, and I'll just give you a second to look at the diagram we've just made. What you'll have noticed is both of the arcs cross over each other. And see if you can predict what's going to happen now in terms of the perpendicular bisector. Well, actually, this point here and this point here, if we connect them using a straight edge or a ruler, what we've just constructed is that red line bisects AB exactly at a 90-degree angle. I'm just going to make sure we label that as a 90-degree angle. And then we've got our first bisected line. Now, sometimes you can also draw this without having to do the full arcs. So, for example, what you might do is just draw arcs like this. You essentially get the same idea, and then just a line that crosses over. Now, it's important that the point I made about going more than halfway more than halfway with your compass. If you don't do that, this is what happens. You end up with an arc like this from B, and then an arc like this from A, and you can obviously see they don't cross over each other, so it's not very useful to do that. The other thing is, if you make your arc way too big, you might go off the paper, so you just need to be aware. It's just a bit of common sense. As long as you're using a pencil, you shouldn't have too much problems with bisecting a line, but that's basically how you're going to bisect a line. Now you can just draw your own second line and practice at home. It doesn't really matter what angle the line is, it's just a line segment. And you can also then bisect it and then measure to check if you're actually bisecting it. So in this case, once I've done my 2 arcs, I would have got something like this. I could have done the full arcs and then I just connected up together. And then you can just check in the exam by using a ruler if you've done it correctly, and you can see you've bisected the line.